Mary Montoya, originally from Calexico, California, which is where I started with the bilingual program there. And as far as positions on the board, I started attending the conferences, and then all of a sudden, I got somebody talk me into, you really would do well as Region 4. And I was like, huh? No. Yeah. So anyway, I was voted in. I was there for two elections, won both of them. And then Rosalia got a hold of me, and she decided I really needed to be VP. And so I moved from there to VP for two elections also. I mean, I did two of them. Yeah, I was there 8 years. But so those were my positions. And currently, I am on the B. Gonzalez Biliteracy, Field of Biliteracy, sorry, committee member, Feed All the People. We're doing a lot of really nice scholarships out there right now. And then, we're still activists, still out there working with ACLU and whoever else will take us. So that's where we are right now, and retired.
My name is Lalo Aceves, and I promised her I'd say Dr. Lalo Aceves. Yeah. And I was in the principal's job for about 24 years. Different type of schools, but I did that. And what happened is I moved from one level of district, San Diego City, and moved to Chula Vista. So that's where I got the principalship. And if you remember, you asked me, you remember during the time we came up with the all the work we were going to do to get us to start in a convention center. And so I was able to get out of there and help out and everything else. So it was, it was fun. It was a neat experience. I still remember things that we did.
And you were also
I was also
administrator.
The administrator that picked as an administrator of the year
For Gabi.
from Gabi.
96,
Remember,
95.
That was after the conference, wasn't it?
Well, anyway, I started going to workshops, the smaller workshops, as a matter of fact. When we first started, we were doing the pilot program in Calexico. I was a teacher there for 3 years. The first year was, of course, a disaster. That was 1974. Yeah, so it was kind of a disaster because Calexico had a lot of bilingual kids, and we weren't allowed to do anything with them. Finally, about 3 years down the road, Simon brought us in. Lopez, thank you. Simon Lopez brought us in, and he says, you know what, let's try this. And I was like, okay. You think so? He goes, yeah, you guys are, great. You'll be perfect. Okay. So he brought in a core group of people, Cecilia Carrillo. I don't know if you know her. She was a principal here in San Diego City. Anyway, a whole bunch of us. And he started training us on what he thought and he envisioned would be a good bilingual program. But the first thing he did was start sending us to CABE conferences. And it was kind of like, oh my God, there's people like me out here, who really need help and support. Where we didn't have the pedagogy yet, really. We were trying to figure out how to start, and it just helped. I mean, that was back in 1976. Shortly thereafter, I just kept going to the conferences, and it was again at one of those conferences that somebody pulled me in and said, we've seen you around a while. Why'd you just join the board? And I said, fine, that'll do. So,
no, I went when you started dreaming up. You're talking about Calexico, but when you came down to San Diego, you started planning a program to start the.
But that was the CABE South County, Chapter 65.
Yeah. And that's when I went from the school and we started doing those things. But one of the things that was interesting that I think of the actual program we had is that when we worked together, as Berta and Maria Luisa and I was finishing up my program, the doctorate program.
Where at?
And in San Diego State. It was actually a division of San Diego State and the
Claremont.
Claremont. So that was kind of a neat thing because I had to run a whole copy of stuff, 653 pages. Are you ready with it? Yeah, 653 pages. I had to get it that night to San Diego State. So I had to go and leave while they're calling up some mariachis. I went to the school and put a whole new thing to get more ink out of it, and I ran them and took them over to the San Diego State, turned it in, and
To Ochoa.
and Ochoa, yeah, to Ochoa, had to get them, but it was really a little hit and miss trying to get that done.
But you
But I
joined
did-
me at the conferences back in 1982.
Yeah, when you were actually a member.
19, yeah.
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 When I moved into what was Chula Vista, they didn't have anything, you know, and so I wanted to get something started with the kids and everything else because they're having trouble with the reading and everything else, and so that's what happened. I said, hey, maybe we can get people together to try to get a bilingual program also. But it didn't take place till the second school that I went to. And that's, like I said, I was joking about it, but it's really true. They found out Lalo's coming. Oh, they took off, and which was great because I could hire anybody I wanted to. And so I did that. And I always remember that that really was helpful to getting these kids to understand what they were doing and learning. And so that's what sort of got me started on that. And
That along with, we've always been big believers in equality, equitable program. We knew our kids weren't getting the equality they deserved or the curriculum they deserved. And some of what happened was we found ways to get it across to them. And in my case, I remember thinking, okay, what can I do as a bilingual resource teacher? What can I do to start bringing that back to the district? And surprisingly, you know, we would do all those workshops and stuff, and we were always told, if you go out there, we're going to pay for you. You better come back and do something for us, right? And as a resource teacher, we would have make it take it workshops once or twice a month, and you wouldn't believe how well received they were. And that was all, again, due to CABE. And I had already been, you know, attending the conferences. So it wasn't a shock to me that they would just, they bless their hearts, they would just come back and tell me, come back to the school now and do it. Because we would do it at the district level. And sure enough, I actually, some of my friends on Facebook, they make me laugh because a few of the teachers have written to me and they said, do you remember me? My name is such and such. You're the one that helped me when I was at Silver Wing School. And you should come back in and work with us on workshops and give us some good information. So all of that we attribute, you know, to working with you in Bencabe, yeah.
the thing I was thinking about, because it helped out, being principal, especially, because now you have, 40 teachers under your control, and you put your little notices out. Oh, tonight we're having a CABE meeting. You know, hopefully you can make it. Better. But that helped a lot because we were able to get some ideas as to where we're going from here and from there. And that was kind of a help to me because, again, this was a principal telling the teachers, you know, I didn't force them, but they haven't. Surprisingly, they used to have the workshops too. And they'd show up there and, hey, I got a good idea, and then come on back and get that and try it with a kid. But that was helpful.
My take on it was, besides the hands-on stuff, you know, again, the workshops and the background knowledge and all the pedagogy and all the, I mean, we remember specifically the one time when we were at Claremont University and Dr. Krashen was there, Cummings was there. I mean, all the big people that you could have, I think the McCrackens were even there. I mean, it was just this, it was huge. that's what prompted me to come back and start the chapter. But specifically, when I think more about it, it's the advocacy, um, and the other word that I was trying to figure out was the information that's been provided, especially during the darkest of days, during Prop 227, during Prop 187, during the Wilson years when we weren't even wanted here. And we just had to make sure that we were providing parents with information, having them understand what this was all about. Because we were kind of caught, kind of off kilter when 227 came around. I remember standing there and being asked, here, sign this. You need to sign this because this will teach kids English, 227. And I remember I was a bilingual teacher at the time, and I said, what makes you think I'm not? And he says, oh, you're one of those. And so that's a lot of when we were very active with Gabe, getting that information out, and doing the fundraising to make sure that we were able to provide, flyers and information to everyone, get it out there. Sadly, they passed 187, but didn't meet the criteria for Supreme Court. So, but a lot of that is, has been part of also the legacy of Gabe.
I remember I'd get the teachers together and we'd start talking of the school at that time that I was my school, and we talked about it. We said, you guys you gotta get up and do something. You gotta start raising money. You gotta, I was a little disappointed because these were younger kids, and I guess they felt, you do the work, I'll wait for the things to be taken care of. And that kind of disappointed me a little bit. I gave the talks and I told them all they had to go. I sent them to conferences. I wanted them to get to understand that we've got to not allow it to take place. Unfortunately, it did.
But one of the beauties of what you did was he sent 3/4 of his staff, English speakers only, and the bilingual teachers as well. So there was a real cohesive group at his site after, maybe a couple of months where they still hang out together. After like 30 years, they still hang out together. You were mentioning 227 and how difficult it was, but I think it was difficult for those of us, that were in the trenches. There was so much going on that we didn't know what was true and what wasn't, and what laws we had to follow and what laws we didn't have to follow. I think of Hermancias, who was always providing us with support that way, because I remember I was a VP at the time, and I'd just call him and say, okay, this is what's happening in Chulvista. What can I do? And he was very honest and just said, well, this is how far you can go. I mentioned the assessment center. That was one of the first things Libby Gill told me. She said, you have to tell them about the program. You have to push it. And you have to get them to sign that waiver, because we had to sign waivers. And I was sitting there going, do you know what that means? I'm getting like 100 kids a day right now. She says, it's up to you. But luckily, we had a lot of people there who were willing to do that and help me. Again, you bring other people in and help, to help. And, but it just, it was very difficult, but we made it happen. And as Lalo just said, because we had a lot of younger teachers who didn't have to fight for anything, they just thought, they'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think we were both a little disappointed. Excuse me. And now those same kids, I call them kids, but those same kids are now running their own, learning academies, charter schools, full bilingual programs, pre-K to 8. Mm-hmm. And so, maybe they, figured it out, but they're doing great things down there right now.
And there's an interesting thing that a lot of the teachers, when it passed, the law that passed it, okay, what are we going to do, Lalo? What are we going to do? What you're doing now? Continue? I'll take that. The thing is that we didn't have, we didn't have police, what do they call them, language police coming into the schools and doing it. Keep it up. Keep doing it. I'll take care of it. A few were a little afraid because, but then they finally went back to doing what they were doing to begin with. And it just, it didn't make sense why they were, they were in doing something or making us do something that was not right. Was not right.
What I find, and I was also eavesdropping a minute ago, but um, what I'm seeing a lot more are a lot of charter schools that are not beginning, who have been next door to us is what do they call it? The world class academy, and they teach various languages. They teach finance. They teach and it's done in in a few Bernie Elementary is the name of the school, and I'm seeing a lot of because we live like 4 blocks away from the district office. So, every once in a while I get to listen in on some conversations that they're at Bernie specifically. And our neighbor is very involved because her kids go there. And she says, oh, yeah, they're trying to pick up this language and that one language. And everything's becoming charter, though, which is, I think, what Betha was saying, too. It's not, it kind of splinters the program, basically, is what it does. And so whether you find, wow, there's great programs there, but there are so many others without a program.
I would say for me, the parents, bringing in the parents and talking to them and working and, in Espanol, not in English, because that was, and they, my God, they thought I was somebody that came from heaven. So I can actually understand what this man is saying. And that, I think, though the kids were great. I had a good time with the kids. But the parents are the ones that I saw that they needed to understand how this program works and understand what a school is like and what it does. And what happened is a lot of these parent groups started turning to more Spanish than English, in a lot of these schools. And I think that probably was one of the...
We had the conversation a little bit at home before we came. And so, as he mentioned, we made a lot of changes to the schools that we went to. We did change policies that weren't exactly welcome, maybe at the time, but there was a shift from full libraries with, bilingual books, with books in Spanish, that never had a book in Spanish before. Our hiring practices were different. We brought in the best and the brightest, and not to, as my niece would say, not to be mean, but we would interview people who thought they just wanted a job. And one time I said, okay, so tell me what you think in Spanish about something. And he started conjugating. And he said, I think I pensó. No. I think I pensé. Did I pensé or did I pensó? He asked me. And I said, you know what? This is really good. And I know you're really interested in teaching. I can tell that. But you really belong in a different class. And that was part of, our legacy was just bringing in better qualified people, going back to Cabe. The recruitment we were able to do there for teachers was amazing. A lot of our teachers came from Chico State and so many of those, other schools that we never could have gone to. So just support staff, psychs that spoke Spanish, impact teachers that spoke Spanish. I mean, there was a whole litany of things that we could do. And we did that every time we switched to another school. Right. And I think we left some schools in much better shape than they were in, and they continued, to work.
There is a section of 5 years, you just reminded me. When I retired, I was asked you want to come to work for San Diego State? And I did as a teacher. Professor, yeah. And that was really exciting because that's all I had. It's just all Spanish and English, da 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 da. And it was a great opportunity for me as well as them. And so I had forgotten about that. But for that 5 years, until I talked her into retiring.
Never look back. What we need is more inclusivity.
Mm.
We just need to bring in more people of color, more people of various backgrounds, just different backgrounds. It's some of the things that are happening right now, like in Louisiana, or where I don't know where they think they still see as a homogeneous country. They don't see the backgrounds. They don't see the ethnicity and the good things we bring to this country. And I think that's where we all need to continue to work, like you were saying. Hey, I remember when I was on the board, was one of the really neat things I used to see was we had Asians, it was all inclusive. And that gave me a lot to think about, because I was learning from all my colleagues. And I think that's a big thing for me, is the inclusivity.
And talking about just the fact that when I worked for San Diego State, that really got me excited, because we're getting like 50 Spanish-speaking kids that were going into the schools and teaching as they should, and everything was, and it seemed to be growing. So I'm saying we're looking for a good future for something like that, because they did. There are a lot of them that they love teaching. Advice, I would say, it's funny you say this, because I remember when I went into Chula Vista, the different principals and the different people that they were, they weren't, some of them I thought, man. So you're saying, what advice would you give them? I'd say, you got to love those kids. You got to love them. You got to get the parents going. And if it's a different language, find someone that can reach them. But they have to be working together so that the kids could just learn with the parents along the way also. And that would probably be one of the, and I'm not sure it's even there yet, but it's an advice.
My whole thought was, one, to never stop learning, always be on top of your game. Two, there's strength in numbers. Just again, going back to find people like you that, sometimes you may come, you have to overcome obstacles. Find the people that are going to be there to support you, to help you. One of the biggest things that I actually suffered through a little bit in National City was teacher retention. And that was because I'd hear about it and they'd say, well, what exactly is going on? And it was that they felt alone. And see, that's part of what I would really like teachers to do and see, is just, to be a unit, to be together, to help each other out, and continue to learn. We started, and I still have the picture, by the way. Yeah. We started with the founders 12, because that's exactly what the charter said. I had to have 12. And I even got 2 of the administrators from the district office on board. So I knew already we were making an impact. We were starting to see people react. It took about a year before, again, we were able to bring in a lot more people. I hate to keep mentioning names, but to have Libby Gill on board, she was. Dr. Billings on board.
So superintendents, having a superintendent.
Yeah, they were all on board. So we knew we were making that impact. We knew we were going to, start making some changes. We would take Libby to lunch and breakfast, and she'd look at us kind of weird, like, so what happened? Okay, Libby, this is what we want now. Okay, this is what we want now. And she was just wonderful about it. Bringing in people like Berta, who was a parent advocate, we were having, and they still are, scholarship breakfasts with 200 people, 300 people. And the kids, they're doing high school now, but we were when we first started, we were giving them out to, $40 to sixth graders, keep them going. And that brought in the parents. And so and the parents were being given workshops. We would do the ELAC, which is now ELAC and DLAC and everything else. We did a lot in that district. And again, because the children needed to be loved, know that they were going to be taught well, and they were getting quality education.
The thing that's interesting is we're giving, we go over at Rosalia's house and I help her cook, I help her set everything up. But the awards are going to Chinese kids. They're going to Asian
Asians.
kids. They're going, and hey, it's,
We've expanded.
yeah.
We've expanded the whole seal of my literacy for me, Gonzalez.